We removed the shed that was built onto patio stones in this corner of the backyard, and after removing the stones, we're left with this area that has no grass. We also had a couple of vegetable gardens that were removed from this side of the backyard also, so there's quite a lot of areas in this backyard that needed to be patched up with new fresh sod. This property is located exactly 5 hours away from where I live, and I had to leave pretty much as soon as the job was done. So these are the after pictures that were sent to me by the homeowners exactly 2 weeks after we left. As you can see, it's quite a transformation and the homeowners are extremely happy. Now please allow me to show you the recipe and tell you how exactly I did this. But before I get there, if you're new to this channel, please make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. There's a bunch of other videos in this channel. I'm pretty sure you're gonna like a lot of my content. If you have a dead or patchy lawn that has a lot of weeds in it, or for whatever reason if you're not happy with the overall look of your lawn, that old grass has to come off first before we even lay our new sod. So in order to remove the old grass, you can rent one of these sod cutters from Home Depot or any other place that is near you and easily remove the grass. As you can see it, this sod cutter goes through the sod very nice and easy, and then you can roll down all those cut sections and throw them out. If you roll your new sods over old grass, it is gonna die in a few days. So that's the reason why that the old grass has to come off first thing first before we even get into the rest of the process. Now in this backyard, we didn't have any grass in the area that needs to be patched up. So I rented one of these walk behind rotary tillers and I used it over all this area to till down the dirt and kind of make it loose before I lay my new sod. Now this was a very good quality topsoil and it wasn't very difficult to till it down. The reason why I used this rotary tiller was because I wanted this dirt to be loosened up a little bit so later on I can work with my rake and kind of level it down. I also had to make sure that the slope is maintained so when it rains the water doesn't go toward the property and everything works as it should. It's a very easy machine to operate. All you need to do is just to turn it on and go over all the areas that have compacted dirt and you can loosen it up in a matter of a few minutes. For this specific project, I didn't have to buy any topsoil, and that's because when we removed the vegetable gardens, we actually ended up having a lot of good quality topsoil. Generally speaking, if you don't have any grass in your backyard and it's only dirt sitting there, you should definitely order some good quality topsoil before you roll your sod down. After the tilling was done, I grabbed my rakes and I went through the whole dirt by hand. I used my rakes to level up the topsoil in this area and I just eyeballed it to make it look nice and good. I found some small stone pieces, I found some pieces of wood, some dead grass, and all these unwanted objects were all removed at this point. I used a nice 3 feet long rake here and it did a wonderful job. But if you have to do this to a big area, there's another tool called lawn leveler and you can get that from Amazon or other websites. And the good thing about that one is it's gonna make your life a bit easier leveling up all this dirt. You don't even have to have a good eye to level it down. That tool makes it a lot easier. At this point, make sure not to cut any corners because it's gonna suck if your lawn is not nice and level. So make sure to take your time and go over everything with a little bit of OCD and double check to make sure everything is extremely nice and level and sloped properly from the property before you actually lay down the sod. This was a storage shelf in their garage. I removed it from the wall because it had a very nice and flat top to it. I put this facing down onto the ground and then I attached this strap to it that works as a handle. I put this at the very end part of the backyard right by the fence and I started dragging it all the way across this whole area. This almost worked like a big rake and it leveled up the entire area. I thought I did a good job with eyeballing it, but take a look. When I dragged this, it removed that much of dirt from one side. That means this area was sitting pretty high. I dragged this piece in multiple areas and multiple directions, and it helped me out a lot to make it extremely nice and smooth. One more time, I grabbed my small rake and I went over all these edges. Now that this topsoil is ready, we can lay our sod. I got my water hose and I watered down the topsoil at the very back part of the backyard. And then I started rolling the sod. Let me get you closer there so you can see how exactly I roll it down. First, I wet down the area using my water hose, and then I place the roll of sod exactly where I want it to lay down. As I open the roll of sod, I always water down the back side of it and make sure that the back is completely saturated with water before I actually lay it down completely. It's very important to use a lot of water here. Make sure that the back side is completely saturated. Because this roll of sod was sitting at the Home Depot when I bought it, it's been sitting there for maybe 2 to 3 days. There wasn't enough watering process for this. So when it sits down here, if you don't water it properly, it is gonna die pretty soon. Especially that you saw how dried up the backside of this sod was. Now that the roll is open, I kinda line up the edges with the previous row that was just installed. I make sure that all those edges are pushed down. This way it goes into the ground. Basically, when the roots are growing, they kind of go down deep into the soil. And now we're ready to go with the second roll. Basically, I place the roll exactly where I want it to be, and then I water down the whole area on the back side of it, and then the rest is exactly a repeat of what I did for the last roll. Again, we really have to make sure that all these seams are completely pushed down into the ground. It's very important to make sure that all your seams are staggered properly. For the most part, I normally space them about 2 feet apart. This way, when the grass grows in a few weeks from now, you won't be able to tell where exactly the seams are. This is extremely important, so please make sure to stagger all the joints as you go on. And also, don't be shy to use the water. Please think of the water as a glue that glues this to the ground. And in case if you're wondering how I cut these rolls, I just use a utility knife and cut it from the back. After I lay down all the sod, it's time to water it down. Again, don't be shy using the water here. We need a lot of water. In this recipe, water is the most important ingredient. So make sure that this whole sod is completely soaked with water. After the watering process was done, I rented this lawn roller from the Home Depot for $20 a day. It just needs to be filled up with water prior to using it. Now we can use this roller to go back and forward on top of the lawn, and we do this to push the roots of this new grass to the topsoil. I use this in both directions, and I do this whole process twice. Basically, I water it down twice and I roll it down twice in both directions. This way we ensure that the roots of this grass is completely attached to the topsoil underneath of it, and by watering it down so much, we make sure that this lawn is gonna grow nice and thick. So this is how it looks like after all the sod was rolled down, and all the edges between the new sod and the old grass is completely nice and level. Now to make sure that the new grass and the old grass are completely blended, I'm gonna show you a very cool trick. I got some of this NitroGrow grass seed from my local hardware store. This grass seed is rated for extreme conditions. So this grass is going to be very durable in hot climates and also with a lot of traffic. This grass seed also grows very fast after we apply it. I poured the bag inside my seed spreader, and then I set the broadcast setting on number 4. Now it's time to apply the seed on all the old grass, especially on all those seams. Just keep in mind that the old grass was cut pretty short before I even apply this grass seed to it. You want to be extra generous when you're applying this seed to the grass. This is basically the trick to make this whole thing blend nice and evenly, so make sure to apply a good amount of it. Once the seeding process was done, I grabbed some topsoil and I spread it over all these new seeds by hand. Just make sure to broadcast it in all these areas, and at the very end when you're completely done with this, go over all these areas with a rake to make sure everything is nice, smooth and level. You don't need a thick layer here, you just want to cover up the seeds with a little bit of dirt. Basically, a layer of 1/2 inch to 3/4 is going to be perfect. If you find a topsoil that has cow or sheep manure in it, it's going to be a huge help to grow the seed very fast. And just make sure to use gloves with that type of topsoil, of course for sanitary reasons. Be extra gentle when you're using the rake at the very end. You don't want to move all the seeds, you just want to go over it to make sure all the seeds are covered. And once we're done with the raking process, it's time to water it down. Again, be extra generous with the amount of the water and make sure to water this down for the next 2 weeks at least twice a day. I can't emphasize this enough, the new sod and the new grass here needs a lot of water. At least for that very first 3 weeks. After the 3 weeks, you only have to water it twice a week as you would normally do. And if you want this grass to stay nice and green, make sure to set your lawnmower on the highest cut setting. Again, this is how it looks like after 2 weeks, and as you can see it here, it turned out very nice. If your lawn is dead and it doesn't look pretty good, I also have another video on my channel showing you how to get that back to life. I hope that you guys like this video, and if you're new here, please don't forget to subscribe. There's a bunch of cool videos coming this way. I hope to see you in the next video. Till then, peace.